Hi guys, welcome to the France Campus Tour 2024. This year we are visiting multiple business schools in France, and today we are at one of the best B schools in France, which is HEC Paris. To reach here, we left early in the morning from Paris since we were told that the campus is huge and beautiful. HEC campus is located on the outer suburbs of Paris, and it took us about an hour to reach here. To be honest, I wasn't very impressed when I saw this simple building at the entrance, but little did I know that from the inside this campus was absolutely stunning. Here we met with Namit Agarwal, a chartered accountant from India who was working as an investment banker before he joined the HEC Paris MBA program. We decided to first take a tour of the campus and then start with his interview. Namit was kind enough to take us to every corner of the HEC campus. This campus is spread across 321 acres, and to my surprise, it has a forest, a lake, a castle, a church, a football field, and whatnot. Namit then took us to the common community space, which had a bar but was shut because of holidays, and later we checked out the university buildings and classrooms, some of which were super cool. Next, we stopped for lunch at this restaurant before heading to this spot, which we decided was the perfect place to ask Namit a few questions about HEC Paris. In this interview, we're gonna ask Namit to be absolutely honest and tell us about his experience here and focus on all these critical points. So, let's get this started. So, hi Namit, thank you for sparing some time for us today. So, today's agenda is to, know more about HEC, understand your experience, and learn from you whether it's worth it to come to HEC in the first place, right? So, let's directly deep dive into it. Can you tell me what is the kind of reputation that HEC Paris enjoys in France and across the world?
So in France, particularly, I think HEC enjoys a very good reputation.
Mhm.
Wherever you go, the moment, and it doesn't even matter if it's a person or a professional. Even if you meet local people and if they get to know that you're from HEC, they immediately start, relating you with like aristocracy and good experience, good education, because it's very tough to get into HEC, and
Mhm.
HEC has a long legacy of CEOs graduating from here. So the moment people realize that hey, you're from HEC, they start treating you differently. They start treating you with more respect, and you're able to command the room better.
Mm.
Across the world, I think HEC's MIM is very well known. MBA is starting to pick up now. So even as per if you see the Financial Times ranking, HEC is growing fast in the ranking itself. So across the world, it's picking up. In France, it's already spot on.
Makes sense. In fact, to explain to Indian students, I always ask them to compare to the IIMs of India, which is IIM A, B, and C. HEC is that huge in France. Also, it is extremely popular across Europe, in the UK and Middle East. Not yet so much in the US and Asia, but like you said, it's picking up. Moving on to the next question. So I wanted to ask you about like what are the popular programs here at HEC?
So, other than the MBA itself, one of the best programs that HEC has to offer is the Masters in Management. So,
Mhm.
people have different majors in it, but it's one of the most coveted programs to get into, and the people who do get into are, they really get to do really good in their careers ahead.
Mhm.
So like quite a lot of people who are CEOs, they started their MIM journey at HEC.
Okay.
So MBA is actually a relatively newer program for
Mhm.
HEC.
Okay.
Then, other than MBA and MIMs, we have Masters in Strategy and Masters in Marketing. So the marketing is specifically popular because people get to go into the luxury industry directly into the Paris offices. So these are the
Right.
headquarters.
Mhm.
And I would say Masters in Strategy is a course wherein again you get to work with luxury companies, but in a
Mhm.
strategy sort of role.
Right.
So people get to do work in fashion, but on different aspects depending
Mhm.
on which course you do from HEC.
Yeah, so I've heard like the Masters in Finance program is also extremely popular apart from the ones that you've mentioned. I think it's one of the best in the world.
Yeah,
So definitely for the ones considering like a career in
finance
finance,
for
a
sure.
Masters in Finance or an MBA in Finance would be
Yeah,
like
yeah.
super interesting. So next question would be about like the career services. So let's say if you graduate from one of these, coveted programs, how can you expect to get like jobs? Is it easy or difficult? And if it is, do like the careers team help you really well in this process?
So once you graduate, in fact, even while you're studying here,
Mm-hmm.
so you have a lot of sort of discussions with your careers team. So you're assigned a coach,
Okay.
and that coach is usually from the industry that you want to enter into.
Mhm.
So you meet with them, you do mock interviews. So they help you like polish up your CV and make it in the format that which companies are looking for.
Mhm.
And then once you start applying, they help you in interview prep, so they can give you certain questions which are usually asked because
Mhm.
these career coaches are from that industry
Right.
which you want to enter into. So that way, since HEC has been majorly in a marketing school and more of a like people getting into luxury. So these people have that background. They come from that background. But if you're trying to get into say consulting, finance, or tech, that part of the career team is still building up. They're starting to transform it. So in that part, the student needs to put in more efforts, at least in terms of reaching out to those companies. But if you want to go into the interview prep part, then you can go to the career coaches still. I would say though that they're very approachable people and they're very adaptable. So them being open to meeting you every time is a very good good thing. The only con I would say is that I don't know if it's exactly a French culture thing or an HEC thing, that they want you to take the first step. So they would want that you bring them the companies, that you bring them the contacts, and then they will help you realize as to how you can use that contact or company to get into it.
I guess it's not like India, right, where you have like a placement culture. But I think it's also a pro because at the end of the day, you know how to look for jobs. Because let's say even if you get a job like through a placement drive, at the end of the day, there's some point you have to change jobs and you need to know how to do it. So that kind of trains you. This whole process trains you how to do it. So that's the thing. Yeah. Can you tell me like how much do you usually spend in a month to survive here on the campus, to party and all of those things?
Sure. So I think it depends on the MBA and MIM. I can speak for the MBA side because we tend to go to Paris much more often. And I would say around monthly expenditure, including everything that you're doing, since you're living away from Paris, so they are a bit cheap. So I would say in my case, I used to spend around about say 800 to 1,000 euros a month, which includes my rent, which is adjusted for the CAF facility that you get, which includes your groceries, your travel. Even if you travel abroad, I mean, other than France, I'm still averaging it out because in certain months, when you have the summer break, you do not end up spending much. And in general, people who do get internships, then they're able to adjust their expense against it. Plus, when you're on campus, you have your supermarket nearby, so you don't have to travel much for that. It's at a walking distance, and and all sorts of groceries or deliveries that you want, they actually do come to campus. So again, that part is saved. So purely in terms of expenses, I would say it's around 800 to 1,000 euros a month. This is of course in addition to your tuition that you pay to HEC.
I mean, I think personally it's not that bad
No, not
because
at
you
all.
live so close to Paris at the end of the day, and plus you get like such a beautiful campus to live at. So I think it's a mix of best
Yeah,
both the worlds.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, say you go to LBS or any US school, these places do not really have a campus. So you tend to live in rental homes, which take up majority of your expense. While on HEC, you pay about 400 euros to 300 euros only for your room, and plus they have these services of lobby services, facility services. So only look after your room, and I would say that is a big gift compared to staying in London or staying in like New York or something.
Definitely, and also the hassle of finding one, right? Because a lot of countries go through like a housing crisis. Let's say Canada had like that issue, and even in the UK, it's not that easy. So I think that problem is kind of solved at a much affordable price. So I've heard like that HEC Paris is one of the most diverse business schools in the whole of Europe or maybe the whole world. What is your opinion about the same?
So I think that's definitely very true. So when we came to HEC, one of the professors told us as to how many countries are sitting in that one particular room, and we had like three different rooms as such, and there were like 65 country people sitting in one room, and that, I mean, of course, it includes Indians, Japanese, and Asians, and Chinese. But other than this, you have people from literally all seven continents coming to HEC. And I think even US schools, which have like 40% Americans, or even LBS cannot boast of this level of diversity. In addition to this, when we have exchanges, so HEC people go on exchange to US schools or Asian schools, and they come here, the diversity increases even more. Plus, so not only are you benefited from your own cohort, but when the exchange people come in, you are assigned a buddy to them, so they get to learn from you from them, and you can increase your network even further to other countries. So I think once you graduate from HEC, you would know people from majority of the countries in the world, at least one person, so you always have a friend everywhere.
And very few schools in the world can boast of a diversity like this. And I truly believe that diversity is very critical to your entire experience of studying abroad. Can you tell me what are the highlights of your experience here at HEC Paris?
So when we initially came in, the HEC administration itself, they tried to inculcate you into the French culture, and also So that was very interesting for me to know, because you do not see this much in other schools. Then specifically for MBAs, there are a lot of events which take place across the year, which have, to be honest, nothing to do with academics. So there is MBAT, which is the tournament for sports for all European schools, which is hosted by HEC itself. Then there is an outdoor leadership seminar which takes place for 2 days across campus. So these are like army level events or military training events which happen only for MBAs and on the campus wide, and you get to explore the campus and you get to enjoy with your MBA friends. In addition to that, we have a lot of companies that come in from a career point of view, and you get to meet the people who are very high level, C level executives, because it's a very popular B school, so you directly get to interact with them. And addition to that, I would say the campus in itself is so beautiful and so wide that you do not want to leave the campus until unless you want to see something in Paris. So that has been like a very good experience for me. And also because you live a bit away from Paris, you're able to save on a lot of money, while at the same time have the same experience.
Moving on to another very important question about getting into HEC Paris. What would you suggest a student should prepare for to crack and admit at one of the top programs here?
So I would say in case of HEC MBA, I was told that there are four pillars that they look into. And so one is your GMAT score, another is your academics till then, one is your work experience, and the other is your co-curricular activities. And I would say all four of these are important, because even when you come on campus, if you're only good at one or two things, you may not get the full benefit of the HEC MBA experience. So like in my case, my GMAT score was 720. Academics, I was a chartered accountant. In professionally, I have like 5 years of work experience, and in co-curriculars, I was very much involved in teaching and dancing, basically something that I like to do. So when you apply to HEC, when your interviews take place, and also when they want to see that you have an overall personality, you're not restricted to just studies, which unfortunately is the case for Indians. So anyone who is vying to apply to HEC or any other international school also, I would say that they should spend time on also doing things which are bigger than them, or at least they like doing, other than academics and work experience. So because a lot of people that I've talked to before also, they tend to say that I've done this is education, this is work experience. I'm like, all that is great, but that even other Indian who is next to you has done. So how do you separate yourself is by doing things which you really like doing.
Exactly, and I keep saying this. Most students spend 80% of their time on the GMAT, which has 20% weight, and 20% of the time on their applications and essays, which has 80% weight. So, Namit, you're a chartered accountant from India and you're already like an investment banker. So, why did you decide to do an MBA in the first place?
So my primary reason was, when you do chartered accountancy, it's a distance course, so you don't really get to enjoy the campus life. And while I did investment banking, I knew that even after 2 3 years, I can still go back to the same life if I want to. But I wanted to see what else was out there, and so I decided to do an MBA at that point. But I first thought as to whether I should do an MBA in India or abroad. But now again, I have been brought up in Indian culture and I have Indian students, so I'd seen that already. And I'd been to Europe before, and I enjoyed the quality of life. So I decided to do specifically an MBA in Europe. Why I did not do in US? I feel it's way too far from India, and I still wanted to have a connect to India. And plus, I mean, like we have covered before, the cost of living is extremely high in US. Plus, you face a lot of visa issues, and you do not enjoy as much diversity in US. So which is there in Europe. The added benefit being, when you come to Europe, you have the visa to travel across Europe. So I've been traveling to more than 6 countries already, even just in my last 8 months. And plus, for me, after I came here, I realized that doing an MBA has really opened my mindset. Being amongst people from different countries has really broadened my perspective, which I do not think was possible if I was in India.
Makes sense. I guess that's the experience you can only get outside India, right? Especially if because you've done like a professional degree, maybe you didn't have like a university experience. And it's always about the right fit. And HEC seems to have given you that complete experience that you expected. All right. So thank you so much, Namit, for your honest feedback about HEC as a business school. Guys, I've also picked Namit's brain for his HEC MBA experience specifically. So if that interests you, make sure to subscribe to our channel and stay tuned.